Recently we spoke about the creation of the vampires, their enslavement under the Lord of Undeath, Nagash, and their eventual freedom when Nagash was defeated against the living of Nehekhara. I mentioned that each of the first vampires eventually went on to found their own bloodline, and today we are going to look at one of them. Prior to Nagash's defeat, or even before it was even known that he still yet lived, Nagash was somewhat influencing the dark happenings in the kingdom of Lemire, where his loyal follower, Ushoran, influenced the young queen Neferatum into recreating the famed elixir of life. Those who drank from it were forever changed, shedding their mortal lives for a much darker path. Many had been given this honor of becoming the first true-blooded vampires, but there was one who was not given this honor. One that was snubbed by not only his equals, but by his own flesh and blood. This man was Ushoran, lord of masks, celebrations, and festivities. He was the queen's brother, and her petty childishness would not deny him the immortality he rightfully deserved. Ushoran knew no fear, even from his now extremely powerful sister, and thus he stole the very last of the elixir of life and consumed it for himself. Such actions would have surely seen anyone quickly killed, but luckily for the soon-to-be father of the Strigoi, attentions had been turned to the armies of men who marched upon Lemire. Unfortunately for the powerful vampires, they could not turn the tide that marched against them. But in truth, this was planned all along, so they would flee north in search of a master who had long awaited them. Here the vampires found themselves enslaved by the Lord of Undeath, but thankfully for them, Nagash would find himself defeated eventually, and the vampires would be given a chance to flee as discussed previously. Ushoran, however, would not flee, for he was not scared of Nagash's wrath, nor did he believe the rest of his kind should live in fear. Ushoran wanted for the vampires to take their rightful place as rulers of a land, and with time perhaps the world, as its undying masters. While the rest of his brethren fled northwards, Ushoran skulked within Nagash's lands, finding the nation known as Mourkain, a human kingdom known for its morbid fascination of death and its worship of Nagash. Ushoran would take over these people and show them a better world, where he and his trusted would only feed on criminals, and those who served would be protected until the end of their days. Soon enough, the kingdom known as Strigoi would be founded, and for centuries it was nothing short of a paradise. The people of the nation would serve their immortal masters, and so long as they served, they would be safe. In return, Ushoran and his ever-growing bloodline would feed only on the criminals of the land. You may be wondering why I haven't discussed the bestial form that the Strigoi are famous for. And this is simply because while the Strigoi ruled over their lands and built their kingdom strong, they were still relatively human-like. It wasn't until many years later when Strigoi fell at the hands of many human and greenskin invaders that the bloodline would take a turn into insanity. None of the Strigoi truly know how their kingdom fell, but many believe it was at the fault of their vampire cousins of the other bloodlines, for long ago Ushoran sent word to them, hoping that once again they may all be reunited in a kingdom that saw no unlawful crimes, where the first vampires may rule again together. Unfortunately, such a noble gesture was met with silence, where in truth the other bloodlines saw the Strigoi as mere rabble, and any kingdom built by them was surely nothing of use to anyone. Neferata herself used this time to trick many kingdoms and greenskin hordes into invading the lands of the Strigoi, seeing this as the perfect time to enact revenge on her brother for stealing the last of her elixir of life. The kingdom of Strigoi was set by a large number of enemies, and unfortunately they were unable to defend themselves from all sides. The kingdom was shattered and their sire was slain. The vampires sired by Ushoran were forced to flee, and it is here that their transformation came. The Strigoi fled as their kingdom was being destroyed. They ran to their cousins begging for aid, but were only met with betrayal as they were shunned or even outright hunted like animals. Forced into the shadows, the Strigoi became desperate, only appearing when they had no other option. They still held to the beliefs of their sire, not wishing to feed on those who had caused no harm, but in some cases there were no other options. In the most extreme cases, the Strigoi began to feast upon the dead and to seek companionship with ghouls. It was the blood of the dead that led to their more bestial appearance, for they had received no sustenance, only the bare minimum to survive. But the dead attract no attention, unlike the living who would go missing. As time progressed, their minds would waver, where most, if not all of the bloodlines see them as no more than rabid animals. In truth, most of the Strigoi have kept their strong will, and still hope for the days that they may once again build up a kingdom in honour of their founder and the vision he had for the future. Some indeed have been lost to madness, and the more they devolve per se, the more their minds wane. Many of the Strigoi have taken to ruling over the many ghouls of the south, very much so as they would rule humans, and it is because of this that the other vampires mockingly call them ghoul kings. Not that they would say it to their faces, as even the blood dragons have been known to fear the raw bestial strength that the Strigoi possess. The Strigoi are a solitary race. Very rarely will they travel in large numbers, for numbers attract attention, and even rarer still will they bestow the famed blood kiss, seeing it as a curse and cruelty that no other should endure unless it is needed with no other alternative. It is unknown how many Strigoi currently live. There are rumours of some hiding within deep dark caverns, massing armies of ghouls and other monsters, while other rumours say that some have found themselves in positions of great power. All that is actually known is that their kind is being hunted by not only the living, but their undead cousins too. And with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our lore video. So far we've covered the Necrach and now the Strigoi. Soon enough we'll be covering the Blood Dragons, the Lemians and the Von Carsteins. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.